What's up, guys? Welcome back, and today we're going to talk about something that's very dear to my heart: procrastination. So procrastination has been a major part of my life for probably the last 20 years, basically since I've been doing meaningful work. Work of a 12-year-old, maybe meaningful is a strong word there, but you get the idea. So here's an example of procrastination. I have been awake for about 2.5 hours, and I'm just starting recording this video. Now, I did the research last night. I needed to do a little bit of scripting and get my ideas in order, but 2.5 hours is a little excessive. Spent quite a bit of time watching YouTube videos, messing around, looking at my analytics for my page, all sorts of things. A lot of things that were not productive. So clearly I haven't fully mastered procrastination, but hey, I'm still getting a video recorded, so we're good to go. So about 5 or 6 years ago, I discovered or created a way to get past my procrastination problem. And this was during a time when I was training for marathons. Typical marathon training program is about 18 weeks long. It probably has about 60 training sessions. They could have more or less depending on how serious you are. There's no way you're gonna nail it 60 times in a row and be motivated and driven to get out there and run every single time. You've got to have some sort of mechanism to get yourself out there with your running shoes on and get that first mile in. So I came up with a method to get myself past that hurdle. And it has some roots in what you study in chemistry. So if you've ever taken chemistry, you've probably learned about activation energy. I've talked about this in other videos. I want to draw some parallels to that and then talk about how we're going to use that to defeat procrastination. So activation energy, there are these charts that I still remember in my head because my chemistry teacher just pounded these things into us. I mean, weeks upon weeks of looking at these charts and learning what they mean and how to calculate various things off of them. So now I see them in my sleep. I'll put one up on the screen so that we can talk about it a little bit. So you don't need to know much about this, especially not the chemistry, but let's draw a parallel. So when I was a kid, I loved to ride my bike, and I knew where all the best hills were. I'm sure a lot of you are the same way. The best hill was the one where there wasn't a lot of uphill to get to the top, but the other side was this long downhill. Well, that's what we're talking about with activation energy. It takes a certain amount of energy to get your bike up the hill, but then you get a lot more out of it going down the backside of the hill. Now with activation energy, that chart represents one molecule of some chemical. Well, that chemical is surrounded by a bunch of other molecules of the same thing, so once you release the energy from that one, it ignites the ones around it. So it's kind of like if you were on your bike and you had to climb that first short hill, and then you could go down the long hill, but then after that was another short hill followed by another long hill. So you can imagine once you get going, then you're just going. And the parallel to productivity is that you have to have a certain amount of that activation energy to get yourself over that hump, to get yourself started. And then once you're started, you can enter that flow state and you can just go and knock things out. So that's where we get into momentum, which is something else I've talked about in my previous videos, is getting productivity momentum so that you can get vast amounts of work done in a short amount of time. The problem is that activation energy. We've all felt that where you got this huge project, and in the human mind you don't see it as this little hump that you have to get over and then flow state for the rest of it. You see the whole picture. So you look at this, if you're training for a marathon, you've got a 20-mile run this morning, right? It's 6 o'clock in the morning, you're tired, you're in bed, it's warm in your bed, it's cold outside, and you don't want to get up and go spend 3 hours running. So you see the 3 hours of running, when really all you have to look at is that first few minutes. So let's talk about what I do in the case of running first. When I was training for a marathon, I realized that the biggest hurdle was basically getting out the front door. So my goal in the morning, when I woke up at 6 in the morning and I had that 20-mile run, I wasn't thinking about, well, I'm gonna have to get my clothes on, get in the car, drive to the starting point, because it was a group run with the group, get back in the car and come home, and it's gonna be 10 o'clock, right? 4 hours later, I get back home, I'm exhausted. If I think of it like that, there's no way I'm getting out of bed. What I did was I thought, okay, I'm gonna go to the run and I'm gonna run the first quarter mile, and then I'll decide. After that first quarter mile, I'll decide if I'm gonna do the whole thing, or if I'm gonna do just a portion, or if I'm just gonna say screw it and go home. Not all of the runs were group runs, so I might just have a 6-mile run, and right when I get out the front door, run my first quarter mile, and then I decide. And I'll tell you, I never once stopped at a quarter mile. So I've done hundreds, probably, maybe even thousands of runs in my life. If I get out the door and I run that first quarter mile, I'm going to do the whole thing. So this basically hacked my brain to get those runs done and stop, laying in bed and debating whether I was going to do it. So let's talk about some other facets of your life that you can use this for. For instance, reading. If you want to read 20 pages a day, don't think about reading the 20 pages a day. In fact, this is a goal I've made, to read 20 pages a day, and it lasted about 2 days. With this technique, I would totally reframe that goal. My goal would be read 1 page a day, with the option of reading up to 20 pages. Because once you crack that book open, you get comfortable, you read that first page, now you're in the story. But if your goal is to read 20 pages, then you're thinking, well, that's going to take me, I'm a slow reader, so it's going to take me 30 or 40 minutes to read 20 pages of an average book. So I'm thinking about the 40 minutes, and I'm like, I can't burn 40 minutes right now because I want to watch YouTube videos. Instead, make your goal read 1 page a day. If you do that, you're much more likely to succeed. Eating healthy. So if you want to start eating healthier, you can't just say, well, every one of my meals is going to be whole foods that are so-and-so proportions. Just say, before every meal, I'm going to drink a glass of water and eat a piece of fruit, or something like that. So they say, if you drink 8 ounces of water before you eat a certain percentage less. I haven't done the research on that, so I'm not going to throw out random numbers, but it makes you eat less food. Also, eating a piece of fruit will cause you to eat a smaller portion. So, make the goal, eat a piece of fruit before my main meals, and that'll help you eat healthier. If you want to run, make the goal, say you want to run 3 days a week, make the goal, put my running shoes on and get a 1/10 of a mile of running in and some stretching 3 days a week, with the option of running 2 or 3 miles after that, or whatever your goal is. If you want to do more writing, make the goal to write 1 sentence or 1 paragraph. Don't make the goal 500 words a day, because then when you're thinking about getting started, you're thinking about that 500 words. You're thinking about this momentous accomplishment that you don't even know how to get there. Just start with that first sentence. The moral of the story here is that the most difficult part of any task is getting started. If you can get yourself past that hump of getting started, you're much more likely to succeed, especially if you can hit that flow state like I was talking about with the bike and the hill. So I want to close out this video with 2 questions. The first one is, do you think you could walk 50,000 miles? So think about that for a second. 50,000 miles, that's an incredible distance. Now most people would say, no, there's no way I could walk 50,000 miles, but I'll tell you, you can, and you probably will. The average person will walk more than 50,000 miles in their lifetime. Essentially, if you walk 5,000 steps a day and you live to be 70 years old, you'll walk more than 50,000 miles in your life. So it's not about the overarching number. It's about these little increments, these little bite-sized pieces throughout the day. So 5,000 steps a day, if I had asked you if you could walk 5,000 steps a day, you would have said, yeah, I could probably handle that. But I didn't ask you that. I asked you about the big picture, and your initial thought was, hell no, I can't do that. So don't think about the big picture when you need to get started on something. Think about that little bite-sized chunk, that thing that you need to start on just to get the ball rolling. And the second question is, are you subscribed to the channel? Make sure that you're subscribed so that you don't miss any content like this, and hit that bell so you get notified when I upload a new video. All right guys, that's it for today. I'll see you in the next video.